Welcome to Troublemaker and Bass Players. I am your host, the listener, and today we're going to talk about the song The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Now this year, a tourist submarine visiting one of the most famous shipwrecks, which was made more famous by the 1997 James Cameron film Titanic, imploded. Many of you know about the unsinkable Titanic, but many years before James Cameron boarded the Titanic, a singer named Gordon Lightfoot sang about a less famous shipwreck of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. The song was appropriately titled The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. The ship, the Edmund Fitzgerald, was lost with her entire crew of 29 men on Lake Superior, November 10, 1975. 17 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, this wasn't Lightfoot's first shipwreck song. From the 1968 album Back Here on Earth tells the story of a doomed vessel, but that one is fictional. Lightfoot recalled the Edmund Fitzgerald really seemed to go unnoticed at the time. Anything I'd see on the newspapers or magazines were very short, brief articles, and I felt I would like to expand upon the story of the sinking of the ship itself, he said, and it was quite an undertaking to do. I went back and bought all the newspapers, got everything in chronological order, and went ahead and did it because I'd already had the melody in my mind, and it was from an old Irish dirge that I heard when I was about 3.5 years old. This is a factual retelling of the shipwreck on Lake Superior in November 1975 that claimed the lives of 29 crew members. On November 10, 1975, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald broke in half and sank in Lake Superior. The storm she was caught in reported winds of 35 to 52 knots. She was loaded with 26,116 tons of taconite pellets at the Burlington Northern Railroad, Dock Number 1. Her destination was Zug Island on the Detroit River. There were 29 crew members who perished in the sinking. No bodies were ever recovered from the wreckage. Later, when the wreck was found, it was discovered that the ship had broken into. It still sits at the bottom of Lake Superior at 530 feet deep. Historical folk songs rarely place on pop charts, but The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald went all the way to number 2 in the U.S., held out by the number 1 spot by Rod Stewart's Tonight's the Night, Gonna Be Alright. Gordon Lightfoot explained that he was motivated to write the song after seeing an article in Newsweek about the tragedy that gave short shrift for such a monumental event. Lightfoot says the song came about when he discovered the newspaper writers kept misspelling the name of the ship, rendering it the Edmund, that's E-D-M-O-N-D instead of E-D-M-U-N-D, Fitzgerald rather than the Edmund Fitzgerald. Though he didn't say whether or not the misspelling was deliberate, he was quoted as telling Scott, "That's it. If you're going to spell the name wrong, I've got to get to the bottom of this." The actual cause of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is still unknown, and probably will never be so, considering everybody that knows about it, that knows exactly what happened, died that day. Although the Titanic had a much larger amount of 1,517 people dying, the entire crew of the Edmund Fitzgerald, all 29 of them, were lost in Lake Superior. Thank you for listening. This is Troublemaker and Bass Players. I'm your host, the listener.